to bring to life this building that is such an important part of Lansing's history, and it's an important part of our company history as well. Our company headquarters were here in the early 80s, and as many of you may know or have an idea, we're planning on bringing our company headquarters back down here once the renovation of this building is complete. I remember coming to visit here when our headquarters was located here when I was just a boy, and I was excited. I was 4 or 5 years old, and I used to be, the way I would get here is my mother would promise me a mellow yellow or a soda if I made it to the office, because I knew that in the refrigerator upstairs in the 5th floor there was a mellow yellow waiting for me. Since we didn't get it at home, it made the trip an incentive for me. But as many of you know, the building was a department store up until the early 80s. Our headquarters moved here, and then it was a state office building until 2002, and the building's been vacant ever since. We put a great degree of effort into keeping this building and making sure that as it's restored, it's going to be restored historically, and that it'll be the same building that was here when it was a department store. That was very important to us, and it's something that is going to take a great deal of effort, and it's going to be a very involved process, and we're excited about making that happen. As Mayor Bernero mentioned, it's going to be a mixed-use building. We're going to have residential apartments on the top floor, office space on the 3 floors below that, and then retail on the 1st floor with some parking underneath. And we feel that mix will be very, very helpful to downtown, and right now is a perfect time with everything else that's going on, from the power station to the nice nightlife and restaurant atmosphere that's come along in downtown. Now, to go into some of the further details of the actual redevelopment and the architectural fine points, I'm going to turn things over to Liz Nibby from Quinn Evans Architectural Group. Liz is here.
Good morning. Good afternoon. It's good to see you all here today. I'm Liz Nibby, and I essentially recycle buildings for a living. And I've got to say, I've had my eye on this building for a long time. And because, it's clearly an iconic building within the community. I mean, how many of you shopped here when you were kids? A lot. And on top of that, it's truly an architectural treasure. I mean, it's a one-of-a-kind in the state of Michigan, probably in the Midwest. There are a few others that are really like it in the country as a whole. So it's something that's really special if you want to try and keep it. So, it was built in actually 2 phases in 1937 and then in 1947, which tells me something about Lansing. It tells me that even during the Depression, Lansing was growing. There were good things happening here. Well, ironically, it actually exactly parallels the date of the original construction, the addition to the Power Center building. So we can see, it tells us stories about our history. And you can see in a building like this, tremendous potential for the future. So when I finally got the call from the Eyde, I was really thrilled. It's like, oh good, this is going to be fun. It's going to be a great challenge. It's going to be fun. So we've taken a really close look at the building, and it's a kind of a building that has a lot of potential for adaptive reuse. Because the inside of the building, as a department store, was meant to change over time, to adopt the new marketing techniques and stuff over time. As we now look at it for the next generation, we can see the ways that we can adapt it for the future. But first I'd like to talk a little bit about the outside of the building. I mean, it happens also that I really like this kind of mid-century modern art building. So to have a chance to work on such an iconic one is great. I mean, this line of the sweep of the horizontal of this building as it goes around the corner, punctuated by these blue verticals where the entries are. It's just wonderful design. I mean, I really have a lot of respect for Bob and Munson, who were the original designers of this building, and of the Ottawa Street Station. Clearly, you had in Lansing some very good design talent working for you as the city was growing during that time period. On the other hand, the technology that they used to build this thing was cutting-edge technology. We did some research on the metal panels. It's called Makata, and it's actually metal that's bonded to concrete and that's hung on the building. It's an really early precast concrete system, and we found patents for them for like 1935, so just a few years before this was actually built, which is really cool and really interesting, except for they hadn't quite figured it all out. So now we're here, 60 years later going, okay, we really want to maintain as much as we can of not only the look of the building, but also trying to keep that historic fabric in the building. So we're working actually with two different strategies of how can we're going to take it all apart, put it back together, using as much of the original material. But in either case, it's going to look like it looks like now. And the other thing that we struggle with is the glass block. You know, well, glass block is glass block is an essential piece of the character of this building. And so we're trying to figure out how using contemporary glass block we can again re-establish the historic feeling of the building and this really iconic look of the building and meet current standards. So it's been a real challenge and really a lot of fun to look at it. We think we've got some answers that we're looking for to implement them. Then when we come into the building, we look at, okay, we've got all these different uses in the building and how do we put it in the building? And you look at this space, I mean, it says restaurant all over, you know. You can already see the stairs going up to the seats up there overlooking it, and it's like, okay, and I know that the Eyde are out there trying to market it, and even if this gets divided into several spaces, it's just wonderful space. So this space, a lot of it takes care of itself. The storefronts are in great shape. We're really hoping to just be able to restore those and keep them, and you can see in the rendering the idea of being able to see all the activity again, and I think that's really important for the first floor of a building like this, that it becomes a place where people are welcome to come in and where people see activity, and activity generates activity, and I see this as a major way to really start to help bring Washington Street back, because I don't see how you bring Washington Street back without bringing this building back, which is such a large presence on the street. Then as we go up, we're actually looking at off of Washington Street, in the back, putting the incubator space, again, giving that street presence so people can come in and go easily, and that it has a presence on the street, and it has a place for people to start to market their goods that are doing retail and art type stuff. So we really think that's a really good location for that, and are starting to work with the EDC to look at how that's going to fit in that space back there. I'll knock water off. So then we go up in the building, and we have the next 3 floors that have the glass block windows. Because the easiest thing to do, well, let's just make it all residential. Well, you really can't do residential with a glass block. So, well, that needs to be office. And how can we make that office that's really state-of-the-art office that has the ability to bring in technology that has efficient HVAC systems, heating and cooling systems. And then we looked at the idea of developing this atrium in the middle of this space in order to give it an internal focus that you can't see out. How can you give it an internal focus and have it in a way that is an exciting space for people to be in, and we can really bring some sunlight down deep into the space. And so we're looking at, to go off a little bit of an aside of making the building LEED silver. And for those of you, I think, are starting to hear more and more, that means that we'll be making it energy efficient, making the building envelope energy efficient, using green materials so that it's a healthy building to work in and operate, an efficient building to operate. I think that's very important for the office spaces. So I really see this as being Class A office space. Then on the 5th floor, we're looking at putting in residential, and it wants to be residential. You see how it's set back. It does not have glass block, and but the fact that these 2 elevations are set back gives everybody the potential for having a little patio. So everybody's going to have an outdoor patio. And we know that from work that we've done in several other cities that this loft office space downtown, it tends to be a fairly deep market where people are very interested in living downtown. And we know that when you have people living downtown, it becomes more active, it becomes safer, it becomes more desirable. Again, it's putting all those pieces together that we're learning how to build cities like they knew in Europe because they were doing it all the time. But we're now learning as a culture how to do it, that you need to not separate the uses, you need to have them together so that there's people there all the time and there's a lot of activities. So this building in one building will be an example of how you do that and how you do it in one building. And, you know, a minor but not insignificant thing is developing the basement for parking, which will be very nice certainly for the residential for some of the office today. But we're very excited about being able to take this building and transform it into what's ready for the 21st century for Lansing, and where it will help Lansing again. I think Lansing has improved a lot in the last 10, 20 years. I've been coming down here, and this is certainly a major step in taking it further into the future, and we're very happy to be associated with the process. Now I would like to hand it over to Carl Dorschenberg, who's going to tell you how you actually make it happen. Because we really need these guys.